Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is cure. This verb was suggested by the viewer Luis, and I just want to say a quick thank you for this great suggestion. Others that are watching, I welcome your suggestions as well. But now let's take a moment and review some of the definitions or the ways that we use this verb. The first way you might encounter the verb cure can mean to relieve someone or an animal of the symptoms of a disease or a condition. So we're working to maybe reduce any discomfort, pain, or maybe a difficulty with movement. Okay. Related to this is the second definition of the verb cure, to eliminate a disease, a condition, or some type of injury with medical treatment. I know when people hear this verb cure, many people's minds immediately go to a very serious disease of cancer. Right now, more broadly speaking, researchers and doctors have not been able to eliminate this disease for all people. There are certain forms and certain types that can be treated. The survival rate continues to improve, but I really hope that there is a point in the near future where I can make a new video, give you some great examples of using this verb in a sentence and in connection with a development that more types of cancer are being cured. Now, a third way you might encounter the verb cure can mean to solve a problem. We'll see an example of this a little bit later in the video. A fourth way the verb cure gets used can mean to preserve meat or fish by salting, drying, or smoking it. This allows one to eat the meat or the fish at some point in the future, kind of beyond the period of time you otherwise would have eaten it. A fifth way to use the verb cure can mean to harden a material. And this kind of material, it could be something like rubber or plastic, maybe concrete, and you're hardening it or making it harder using some type of chemical process. Okay. Now, this last definition isn't something you'll hear every day, but if you work in a field of engineering or manufacturing, this might be a verb you use more commonly. For now, everyone should know that cure is a regular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, we're going to drop the E because we have a verb that ends with a vowel, a consonant, and an E. Then we'll add the ing suffix. This forms curing, curing. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by just adding the letter D, since this verb already ends in an E. Now our base verb, cure, cure, ends with an R sound. R sounds are voiced. This means our ED ending is going to just make a D sound. I'm not going to add an extra syllable when I say it. So it should sound like this. Cured. Cured. Okay. Now, we don't have any phrasal verbs that we need to study or practice today, so we can move on and talk a little bit about our verb of the day in a couple different verb tenses. Today, we'll practice the simple past tense and the simple future. Let's start with the simple past tense. We use this verb tense to talk about actions that were completed at a known point in the past. Sometimes in simple past tense sentences, you will see time signals. It could be something like yesterday. It could be a specific date in the past. It might be something like 2 weeks ago. Right? All of those things are indicating a time in the past. But not every sentence in the simple past tense is going to have a time signal. It's because that known point in the past can be implied through a longer passage, a longer piece of writing. It can also be implied as part of a conversation, right? We don't have to keep saying the word yesterday once we sort of understand, yes, that's what we're talking about. That's the completed time period. The nice thing about making sentences in the simple past tense is that our structure will stay the same. So in the affirmative, you'll start with the subject, and then you're going to use the ed form of the verb. You can see that in my example. The manufacturer cured the rubber before attaching the soles of the shoes. Right? So we're talking again about that hardening of the rubber. Now, if you want to make a negative sentence in the simple past tense, what we're going to do there is, again, start with a subject. We're going to use did not and then the base verb. You can see this in my example. Holding her breath didn't cure her hiccups. Okay? Now, for most people, hiccups is not a very serious medical condition. It can be for some individuals, but the majority it's not. It's that, right, kind of spontaneous or sound you really cannot control. Okay? And if you go online, I'm sure you can find hundreds of suggestions about how to eliminate this particular problem. But in our sentence here, we're talking about one idea, one recommendation that did not eliminate this particular problem. Now let's move on and talk about making a yes or no question in the simple past tense. To do this, start with did, then you're going to have your subject, and then the base verb. I always like to point out to my students, notice the only time we're using the ed form of the verb is in the affirmative. We're not using it in the negative or with yes or no questions. Here's my last example. Did you cure the fish that you caught last week? Right? So we're asking someone, did you salt or smoke this fish in order to preserve it for a longer period? Now let's move on and talk a little bit about the simple future. Today we're going to practice making sentences with be going to. The trick with be going to is that we need to pay attention to our subject. Our subject is going to impact the present form of be, right? We have 3 forms of be in the present. So my subject is I, use am, going to, and the base verb. But if the subject is you, we, or they, use are, A-R-E, going to, and then the base verb. Finally, if your subject is he, she, or it, use is, going to, and the base verb. Okay. Now, many times we use this be going to talk about our plans. You might hear it with predictions as well. Let's take a look at an affirmative example. Bringing together doctors and researchers from diverse fields is the way we are going to cure diseases. Okay. Saw a sentence very similar to this in a press release from a university. The university was talking about a new program, a new initiative for doctors and scientists or researchers to come together from various fields in order to think about and maybe look for new ways to find an end to particular illnesses or diseases. Now, if you want to make a negative simple future sentence, again, we start with a form of be. So it can be am, are, or is. Then we'll use not, then going to, and the base verb. You can see that in the example. This show isn't going to cure the country of all ailments, but it can help us find commonalities. I saw a sentence rather similar to this from an actor who was talking about a new TV show and how this TV show could appeal to people in different parts of the United States, cities, rural communities, so like out in the country, can appeal to people who maybe have different political beliefs, different religious beliefs. But this actor also recognized this isn't going to solve all of the problems we have here in the United States, but maybe it can help us find things that are similar, so that there's really less hate. I think if you continue to read the article, that's what the particular actor was concerned about. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple future. To do this, start with your form of be. Start with whatever form matches your subject. That subject comes next. Then use going to and the base verb. Here's the last example. Are doctors going to cure his illness? Right? I want to know, can they relieve the symptoms? Can they end this particular illness? Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb cure. And the first word we're going to discuss is just the noun form of this word. The noun cure has the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation as our verb. Like our verb, there are many definitions for the noun. We're just going to focus on two today, and those two I think are ones you're more likely to see or hear people use. The first way the noun cure gets used is to refer to a substance, so we might think of like a medicine, or some type of treatment that results in the end of a disease or a condition. An example of this in a sentence might be, what's your cure for a cold? Right? And again, many people have different things, different treatments that they feel like maybe help them if their nose is stuffy, they have a cough or sore throat, though that kind of not so serious of an illness, but still kind of unpleasant and many times inconvenient. A second way to use the noun cure is to talk about a solution to a problem. An example of this. What's the cure for our housing crisis? Right? So, how do we fix this? How do we solve this problem? Another related word you might see is the adjective curable. That suffix able is a good sign that you're looking at a word that is an adjective, and we can always kind of take that able to and look back to our root word. So here, curable just means able to be cured. An example of this might be, the most curable cancers are thyroid and skin cancers. Okay? So they have many times the best success rate, the best five-year survival rates. So another word for us to discuss today is the noun cure-all. This can also have a couple different meanings. Sometimes people use it to refer to medicine or some other type of remedy or treatment that supposedly will solve or cure any type of illness. An example of this. Some say cannabis is a cure-all, but research hasn't supported that conclusion. You might know of people that have kind of these different ideas, like anytime I'm sick with any type of illness, right? I'm going to take this, or I'm going to do this particular thing. It may work for some people, but I don't know that medical research or scientific research has really found that there is truly something that works for a variety of illnesses. Another way to use cure-all is to refer to something that could be a solution to any problem. An example of this. There is no single cure-all for society's problems. Another related word you might encounter that has a similar meaning, a panacea. It's really kind of talking about that idea of something that can fix anything or everything. Thanks again, Louise, for suggesting today's video, and thanks to everyone who has watched. I hope you have a great day.